Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first video on my channel, RevTech. Super excited to kind of be sharing this project with you guys. I'm going to be designing and 3D printing my very first rocket, which I'm calling Orion. Now, I want to be upfront, I am totally a beginner at this. This is my first time diving into something like this, like 3D modeling and printing a full-on rocket. So if you are new to this too, we're definitely in the same boat, and I'll be sharing everything that I'm learning along the way, just so that way you guys can have some insight onto kind of like what I'm thinking and just how I'm going to be approaching this project to begin with. So the plan is to start the 3D modeling phase. I'm going to be using Fusion 360 to design the entirety of the rocket, and we'll kind of go piece by piece, you know, things like the nose cone, the fins, the body, and then I'll kind of talk to you guys or walk you through some of the choices that I've made, and even some of the mistakes that I've made that may have not have worked out too well. And then we're going to kind of really just be going into structural design. This rocket is meant to serve as like a prototype or just a base version, so it isn't going to be something that is flown today. So if that's something that you guys are looking into, at the end of this video, we're really just going to be showcasing how it turns out and how it looks, and kind of thinking about what we can do to upgrade the rocket in the future. Then we're going to be moving on to the 3D printing process. Now, I'm using an AnchorMake M5C to 3D print this rocket. It is my very first 3D printer, so I am still kind of learning some of the kinks and some things to work out to allow it to perform a little bit better. So that's pretty much how we're going to bring the rocket to life itself, and you guys will kind of see some of the printer in action, and I'll share some of the challenges that I've ran into while designing and 3D printing the rocket itself. This channel is pretty much going to be all about jumping into new projects like this, you know, learning new skills and experimenting with different kinds of technology, whether it's 3D printing, programming, or anything else that really does seem cool. So if you're into seeing what's possible, even if you're starting from scratch, and even if you're a beginner as well, make sure you stick around, because this is just the beginning. If you guys do like this video, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you leave a comment on what you'd like to see next, any suggestions that you guys might have for me as a beginner. And yeah, let's get started with Orion. Now, unfortunately guys, during the process of designing the cone, I did not capture footage that shows me and shows how I did it exactly, but I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight on why I chose this specific design and why I chose to add certain features to said cone. So as far as the shape of the cone, I used the Hack series cone design, and it's used to be super aerodynamic. It's shaped in a way that reduces drag or air resistance when the rocket's flying, and this makes the rocket go faster and more smoothly through the air. I chose the Hack series cone because it helps the rocket fly better, especially at high speeds. Its smooth shape helps airflow over it easily, and which it keeps the rocket stable and reduces the chances of it wobbling or slowing down. Now, as far as the design for the cone, I used 4 spacings, or created 4 holes at the base of the cone, and that'll just allow me to screw it into the body of the rocket, just so that way it has a little bit more security when it is flying, just in case we don't want it to break apart and fly off the rocket body and get lost forever. So those holes are just there to allow it to be a little bit more stable and secure. Now, moving on to the next portion of the rocket, the body of the rocket. I've had a specific design kind of in mind for a while now, even before printing it out, or even trying to design it. I wanted to add 2 plates to each kind of half of the diameter of the body, just so that way I can access any electronics that I do end up putting in future models. At the top and the bottom of the body of the rocket, I did also add those 4 screw holes that'll just allow me to, again, have a little bit more secureness when it comes to flying the rocket, and it just keeps all the parts together, so that way they again just don't end up flying off or flying out when the rocket faces a little bit of force and pressure from going through the air. As far as the diameter that I chose to go with for the body of the rocket, I chose a 75 millimeter diameter, and then just a slightly smaller one on the base of the nose cone, so that way it does fit properly. The nose cone does fit pretty snug, so once it is screwed in, I definitely do not fear that it would end up popping off or breaking off mid-flight. When it came to the panels for the side of the rocket, I chose to make them about like 1, maybe 1.5 millimeters smaller than the body of the rocket, or at least the cutouts that we had on the sides, just so that way these can have a little bit of a snug fit. As you can see here, I mean, it doesn't take too much force to push them out, which is why on the next design I do want to add a couple of holes so that way they can fit screws on them, just to give it a little bit more protection when it is flying through the air, because as you can see, I can easily tap it and it'll pop out. So as far as that, there are 2 on each side, and essentially on this model they just slide right in. So that is what we might end up needing to tweak on the next model, but for now this is the way that we chose to go. Now, when it came to how I shaped the panels for the body, all I had to do was extrude the faces of where the panels would sit and then just cut them out from there. That just allowed me to get exact measurements on how large or just how wide they need to be, so that way they do have that snug fit. In our next maybe Mark II model, we will end up putting screw holes somewhere around there, but we'll just have to figure out later on what we want to do and where we want to place those. Now, going into the next part of the rocket, we are now designing the fuselage. Fuselage was a little bit tricky to make, especially when we added the inserts into the fins, but we'll get to that in a moment. Designing this fuselage, I wanted it to have the same diameter as the body and even the cone, and then I also added the same inserts as I did to the cone, so that way the fuselage can fit into the body and have the same positioning for the screw holes. Now again, that's all just meant to allow the rocket to be a lot more secure and a lot more stable when it is flying through the air, because we don't want it to break apart and fall off while it's mid-flight due to any pressure or any force that it is dealing with. Now, just for clarification, designing this rocket, I did not add any supports that could fit a rocket motor, just because this is simply serving as a prototype, just for looks, just so that way I can kind of get an idea on what I want to do as far as upgrades or any features that I want to add in the future. So once we do figure out the overall size and weight of the rocket, and especially adjust it to make it be a little bit bigger, we can then figure out kind of what motor we want to use to make the rocket fly. Now, I did say I was going to show you guys clips of the anchor make in action. This is it printing the fuselage. It did take about 4 hours to fully print, but I'm super happy with how it came out. Going into the final and last part of designing this rocket, we are going to be working on the fins. Now, when it comes to the fins, I chose a right angle triangle, and I really just chose that design because it was pretty simple to make. I do have some ideas on how I can improve this in the future or just make it look a little bit better. I decided to give one of the open faces a rounded edge, just so that way it has a bit of a smoother look to it. There are many ways that a rounded face can help improve the overall flight of a rocket. A rounded leading edge helps smooth the airflow over the fin. It reduces drag and minimizes turbulence by allowing the air to flow around the fin more predictably, and this design just improves the overall stability, efficiency of the rocket, especially at higher speeds. Now, earlier in the video, I did mention that there were some issues with the fin designs that I initially cut out. The fins to the fuselage, the hole that I ended up sliding the fins in just were too big to fit into the fuselage properly, so I did have to do some trimming along the inserts that I had created for the fins. I did go through about 6 different variations for the fins, and I had made the inserts just I would say 1.5 millimeters smaller on each variation until it did fit, which came out to the end result of being able to fit properly. Now, I did make sure that they weren't so small to the fact that where the fins would slip out. So if you are going to remove the fins from this fuselage, it will still take some force to do so, which is kind of what I wanted to make sure would happen, because we don't want this rocket to be flying and all of a sudden in mid-air it does lose a fin, which can affect its flight capabilities. Now, I did want to show you guys some clips of the fins being printed. The Anchormake M5C does a great job with precision, especially on the precision setting. It just does a phenomenal job making sure that the cuts, or at least all of the inserts, are rounded out properly, making sure that there's no extra filament that is being left behind during the print. If you did make it this far into the video, I first and foremost want to just thank you guys for being a part of this project and being a part of the first video that I have posted on my YouTube channel. I do want to show you guys the end result of the rocket. I know I did mention that there was going to be a few more clips, or at least more clips in general, of the Anchormake M5C printing it out, but I did not prepare ahead of time to get those clips recorded out, unfortunately. But this is my first go at this, so please don't judge me there. This is the end result of the rocket. As you can see, it came out perfectly, exactly as I wanted it, from the fuselage and the fins to the body plates, and even the nose cone. This model is a little bit smaller than what I want, at least for a variation that is going to fly. So in the future, I am going to scale it up a bit and make it look more like a rocket instead of a missile. If you guys did enjoy this video so far, please be sure to leave a like, leave a comment kind of going over what you want me to do next, or at least any suggestions that you guys might have that I can use to improve this rocket. Coming to the end of this video, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.